YouTube, oh my goodness, we have another blockbuster. 2 days in a row, 2 blockbusters in a row. This time, De'Aaron Fox, the all-NBA point guard from the Sacramento Kings, will be headed to San Antonio to play with Victor Wembanyama, and hopefully, for Spurs fans, make a dynamic big and guard combo for many years to come. Now, in this video, we're going to be covering all of the trade details, so every player and pick involved in this trade for each team, and then I'm going to talk about how this trade affects each team in 3 separate segments of the video, so each team will get their own segment. Towards the end of the video, we're going to cover whether or not I think the Spurs can be actual contenders this season. Without further ado, let's get right into it, folks. Hey guys, before we get into it, I did want to show you this little clip that I got. It's a recording from my phone that I took at a Sixers game, and I actually ended up getting to see one of De'Aaron Fox's last games as a Sacramento King, which I thought personally was really cool. We had really good seats at the Sixers game, and I took this video in preparation because I knew I was going to make a video like this, and so just thought this was a cool clip of him warming up that I'd show you guys for the video. You know what's so funny? I actually had a recorded video about where I think De'Aaron Fox will land if he does get traded at all. I literally just finished editing it, and then this, trade dropped last night, and so I had to get on and record this. It's just moving too fast for me, folks. But as far as the trade package, here is all of the details per Shams Charania. In this 3-team blockbuster, the Spurs will receive De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings will actually receive Zach Lavine, City Cisco, 3 first-round picks, 2025 Charlotte, 2027 San Antonio, and 2031 Minnesota, and I believe the 2025 Charlotte is protected, and so I was thinking that would be a really good pick, but actually it is protected, I do believe. They also get 3 second-round picks, 2025 via Chicago, 2028 via Denver, and 2028 they get their own pick back. So Kings making off with a really good haul for the De'Aaron Fox move. That's a lot of picks, and obviously Zach Lavine, a great player. The Bulls will receive Zach Collins, Tre Jones, Kevin Huerter, their own 2025 pick back via the San Antonio Spurs. So this was actually a surprise for me, the Bulls getting in on the action. They actually get a good haul for that Zach Lavine contract. They wanted to unload it for a long time, and in this case they get their own pick back, so they don't have to worry about that protected pick going to San Antonio, and they get a couple good role players out of it. I do actually think everybody got really good value in this trade, but obviously the headline's going to be, Fox to San Antonio and Zach Lavine to Sacramento. Now let's talk about, the effects both short-term and long-term for each of these teams, and we're going to start with the San Antonio Spurs, because them getting, the best player out of this trade, De'Aaron Fox, and this being the big flashy move everybody wants to see. As far as the effects for the Spurs, this is amazing value to get for what you sent out, and also just pairing Wemby with another star player. I mean, this is what he's needed, especially at the point guard position. I have to give this move an A+ for the Spurs, going out, being aggressive, and grabbing that second star to play with Wemby. He's needed another point guard of this caliber for his whole career so far, and big props to the Spurs for getting it done, and big props for setting up Wemby with a potential, number 2 option that can really go places with him. Fox is still 27 years old, in the prime of his career, one of the best on-ball scorers in the league, and a great playmaker, super underrated playmaker in my opinion. This fit is going to be really good. I just don't think there's any question about it. Fox and Wemby in the pick and roll game, pick and pop game, they're going to be electric. Fox is a great mid-range player as well, and so you're going to have Wemby on the pick and pop threes. You're going to have Fox potentially operating these pick and rolls, with extreme efficiency, because he is a great pick and roll ball handler, getting to the mid-range, getting downhill, getting to the rim, using that speed and explosiveness that he has to create not only for himself but for others. And you could actually see, in my opinion, a very similar pick and roll situation to what you see with Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns in the New York Knicks system this season. This is one of the best, most lethal pick and rolls that we have in this league right now. Cat and Brunson, they are a dynamic duo to where Brunson can use Cat's screens and Cat, flaring and ghosting and popping to the 3-point line, while Brunson gets really good switches off the PNR and is able to operate the mid-range with one-on-one matchups pretty much all the time when those two are on the floor together. This could be a really similar situation with Wemby and Fox. Wemby is such a lethal shooter this year. He's taking almost 10 3-point attempts per game, and this is going to space Fox to be able to work in that mid-range area, like I said, with a lot of one-on-one matchups and switches. And so this is an A+ trade for the Spurs. Not only just for this season, but for the future. You put yourself this season in a situation where you're able to compete for a playoff spot or a play-in spot, and I do not want to see Fox and Wemby in the play-in tournament or in the first round of the playoffs. This is going to be a really good team come April, in my opinion, and this fit is going to be excellent. We'll talk about whether or not, in the short term, they'll be able to be contenders at the end of the video, but in the long term, this also makes a ton of sense. I mean, you're sending some stuff out, big stuff, right? A lot of your role players, Tre Jones is a really good backup point guard, but now Chris Paul is probably going to be able to take that role if you don't move him by the deadline. You still have enough scoring, as as far as the team goes. You have guys like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, who can step up, Harrison Barnes, the veteran present, and Julian Champagnie to space the floor in an elite way. You do trade Zach Collins, but I think, his role was diminishing with the Spurs. And I kind of just think, this team will operate better with a little bit of a shorter rotation. You're going to have Sohan and Bassi. This is going to be a really good team come April. And also in the future, I mean, Fox is going to get likely a big extension, and he's going to be the number 2 to Wemby for a very long time. He's still young, 27 years old, like I said. Really great trade for the Spurs. Now, as far as the Sacramento Kings, they actually get really good value for a player that they basically said they're going to move. Anytime you release information that you're trying to move a player of Fox's caliber, you kind of have the implication that it's going to decrease his value, just because if a team knows you're trying to trade someone, they can offer less for him. With the new CBA, it's also a lot tougher to trade these big contract, high value players, and they get a big return for Fox, in my opinion. They not only get someone to replace a little bit of that offensive value in Zach Lavine, a star player. He teams up again with DeMar DeRozan, which is kind of fun. He's going to add a lot of offensive pop, and replace a lot of offensive pop for the Kings. You also get City Cisco and the 3 first-round picks. Even if they're protected, this is a great deal. They said that they wanted win-now talent in a trade for Fox, and they got it with Lavine, but they also got a ton of picks, 3 second-round picks as well. They could look to use those, trade those. They're in a good position flexibility-wise, and now you have a really great offensive starting lineup, just like you did before. You think about this team, you did trade Jordan McLaughlin, but you could see a starting lineup, something like either Devin Carter at the 1, or you could even get crazy and play Malik Monk at the 1. This would add a lot of size to your lineup. Think about this: Malik Monk at the 1, Zach Lavine at the 2, DeMar DeRozan at the 3, Keegan Murray at the 4, and Domantas Sabonis at the 5. That is going to be an elite offensive lineup, in my opinion. You could even start Devin Carter at the 1, or Keon Ellis, somewhere mixed in there. But you're going to have a lot of options offensively now with Zach Lavine as a floor spacer and just an elite 3-point shooter. He's going to, provide a lot of spacing for guys like Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan operate in that mid-range area. A+ value. You obviously bring in this Zach Lavine contract, which, a lot of teams aren't super keen on taking because it is one of the most lopsided contracts in the league. But I will say, for De'Aaron Fox, this is a really good package, in my opinion, especially considering all the picks you get from it. This, provides you a lot of flexibility. If you don't want to keep DeMar DeRozan long-term, you can look to move off of him with those picks. His contract isn't necessarily crazy. We could see some things shaken up for the Kings, not only this offseason, but, still with the deadline approaching. And short-term, this is, basically a good move, right? Because you're not going to retain Fox long-term, and so you get some good replacement value for him back. You do take on that Lavine contract, which isn't great, but you still put yourself in a position where your roster is able to compete for a play-in spot, potentially playoff spot if this thing works out. Future-wise, long-term wise, this is an amazing move because not only do you get all these picks, this is 6 draft picks, folks, and you could take players with them or you could trade them away. You're just opening up a lot of flexibility. You also move off of the Kevin Huerter contract, which is a really good thing to do because, Huerter hasn't been playing all that great in the last couple years for the Kings. And you trade Jordan McLaughlin, but Devin Carter's back from injury, so you're going to be fine there. Just really good value for Fox, short-term and long-term. I love the flexibility you open up for yourself, and in the short term, you're still able to compete the way you want to. Now, as far as the Chicago Bulls, they get a really good deal, third wheeling this trade, because Zach Lavine is a player they're not trying to keep on their roster long-term. They've really struggled to find a suitor for him because of his contract, and they were basically in a situation where they were probably going to trade anything, get any value back for this Lavine contract. They just wanted it off their books. They're looking to go in a different direction with a rebuild. We could even see Nick Vucevic moved by the deadline, but to be able to get back some good, solid value role players like Zach Collins, Tre Jones, Kevin Huerter, and now, your own 2025 pick back, that was a great addition to this trade. This is an A+ value as well for the Bulls, short-term, long-term. Long-term, are these guys, these role players going to be there? I'm not so sure. Kevin Huerter, Tre Jones, and Zach Collins, these guys might not be a part of your future plans, right? But in the long term, you get that pick back in 2025. And if the Bulls are looking to tank the rest of the season, this is an incredible steal from this trade because now your destiny's in your own hands this year. You don't have to worry about finishing within the top 10 or outside of the top 10 in the lottery. You're basically able to play the way you want to play and run this rebuild the way you want to run it with that 2025 pick back in your own hands, and all doing this while you move off the Lavine contract. So an A+ for the long term, and for the short term doesn't really matter because you're not really trying to go for a title this year, and so these guys are just kind of contract filler. At this point, they're good players, but you might not necessarily be looking to keep them on long term. So that's kind of what I think of the trade. I think everybody got exceptional value out of it, and obviously the Spurs are going to be the one we pay most attention to because they're probably going to be the best team out of this, and we get to see Wemby paired with a second star in De'Aaron Fox, and he is the headline of the trade. But Zach Lavine to the Kings is pretty interesting because, you know, if this thing works out, we know him and DeMar DeRozan have great chemistry. If this thing works out, the Kings could be right back to where they were a couple years ago, competing for a playing spot. I know they haven't had the best season. They fired their coach, and now you move off of one of your franchise cornerstones. Doesn't look great, but I'm telling you, they could be right in the mix for a playing spot in the short term, and they get a bunch of picks back in the long term. As far as the Bulls, you know, exceptional value. You know, they would probably take a bucket of basketballs back for Zach Lavine, but they have to add contract filler. And, you know, for that decision to take the contract filler, you know, the Spurs were like, hey, here's your pick back. You know, we know that this isn't an easy thing to do, and so here's your pick. Awesome value there. And then obviously the Spurs, like I said, you know, getting the main attraction in De'Aaron Fox. So those are kind of my thoughts for each team. I do want to talk about whether or not I think the Spurs could be title contenders this season. I mean, if you look at the standings right now, it is interesting because the Spurs are right around a play-in spot. I mean, they're pretty competitive this year, and Wemby is playing out of his mind, making his first All-Star selection. Currently 12th in the conference, you know, just behind the Kings and the Golden State Warriors with a 21-25 record. But here's the thing, you know, De'Aaron Fox is going to, you know, basically make this team about 50% more competitive overnight. It's going to be a very, very seamless fit, in my opinion. Fox is a really smart player and he's going to be really motivated to succeed in San Antonio, especially with that contract coming up and, you know, wanting to make San Antonio his home for a long time. This was on his team of shortlists, and so he's going to be really motivated, and he's a really high IQ basketball player with a lot of talent. This thing's going to work pretty quickly. I just don't know if, you know, the way they started, right, if they're going to be able to make a playoff spot. Now, they definitely will be able to get into the play-in conversation by the time April rolls around. Like I said, they're only 2 games back from the Kings, who are in the 10th spot right now in the Western Conference, and they're going to be really good. I mean, if they can rattle off a really good 10 straight games, maybe you win 7 out of 10, just kind of chip away at those standings. I mean, I would expect this team to be in the play-in tournament. I really think they're going to be that good, especially with the veteran pieces you have. This is no longer the youngest team in the league, right? You have guys that have been around. You have, you know, guys you built with. Keldon Johnson is no longer necessarily a second-year player, right? This guy's been around. You have Chris Paul to lead the show. De'Aaron Fox, who's also a, you know, proven winner. He's been to the playoffs, right? Harrison Barnes has won a title. I mean, you have good veteran talents on this team, and you have enough roster versatility to be able to make this thing work. Defensively, you have a ton of options. You know, Wemby is, you know, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen, okay? He's going to be able to make up for a lot of mistakes. You know, Devin Vassell is a really good shot creator and, you know, scorer. He's been injured a lot throughout the past couple of years, but he's still going to have, you know, the third option scoring role on this team most likely. Let's not forget about the replacement you're getting, the value you're getting for Jordan McLaughlin. You know, he is a good decision maker at that, you know, backup 1 spot. You know, it's probably most likely going to be Chris Paul in that position, assuming he doesn't get moved, but this is a really talented roster, especially offensively. You know, this is a good mix of shooting, playmaking, and shot creation and freakish talent with Fox and obviously Victor Wembanyama. Not to mention, you know, the Spurs are always going to maximize the talent on their roster. Whereas to Greg Popovich, hopefully he can definitely make an impact towards the end of the season on this team and lead this team to something special. But you're setting yourselves up this season to be able to compete for a play-in spot. Once you get into the play-in tournament, I'm not looking to play this team. You know, no question. I mean, Wemby is the last guy I want to see. Now with Fox on the roster, a lot of veteran talent, good leadership, good system that they run on both ends of the floor. And so this could be a tough out, you know, in the play-in tournament. A 1-game situation. I mean, Wemby's going to go all out, and this is a deep team with a lot of mix of veterans and young players and athleticism. And so there's no question they could be fighting for a playoff spot by the end of the year. I don't think they'll make it into the playoffs just the way the West is right now. They'd have to do some real magicianry in the last few months of the season here to be able to fight into a 6 seed or so. Currently 5.5 games back of some of those teams, but the West is so tough. And so that's why I'm going to say they're going to be a play-in team, potentially over a team like Sacramento, potentially over a team like Phoenix. You know, we'll just have to see how it all shakes out. But with a motivated Fox, you know, this thing looks really promising. And so I think they can definitely sneak into the playoffs out of the play-in tournament, and they'd be a tough out in the first round. I just don't know if the roster is there right now to be able to compete, even with Fox, you know, and McLaughlin, to be able to compete with a team like Denver, or to be able to knock out a team in the playoffs like a Houston or a, you know, OKC or a Memphis. You know, I just don't know about that yet. But the point where you are right now, if you take on the Lakers or potentially the Timberwolves or the Clippers, you know, I think those are pretty interesting matchups. I'd like to see how those shake up, especially if the Lakers don't get their center. Be interesting to see, but at the end of the day, all teams won this trade. All 3 teams had a great trade, and just another blockbuster in the NBA. I can't wait to watch Fox on the Spurs. I can't wait to watch Luka and AD on their new teams. This is just gonna be such a fun couple months coming up, and, you know, for my Sixers, Embiid and PG should be coming back back soon. We'll have to see for how long, but another team that I really hope can make the play-in tournament. But at the end of the day, I'm just loving this, league right now. It's so exciting every day. And hopefully there's another blockbuster tonight so I can hop on here tomorrow and record the same video that I did today and yesterday. Like I said, I did record and it literally just, finished editing before this trade was announced, that, Fox video, that where is he going to go, right? Will he get traded? So unfortunate that video is going to go in the trash can, but hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you have any feedback, Kings fans, Bulls fans, Spurs fans, what do you think in the comments section? I love you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. Who won the trade, and did everybody do really well in the trade? Like I said, I think that is definitely what happened, but always curious to hear your guys' feedback down below. What do you think of the trades? And I will catch you guys in the next one. Good luck to the Spurs, Kings, and Bulls. Great job by all three organizations, and please leave a like and subscribe on the video if you guys did enjoy it. We're gonna be uploading stuff like this almost all of the time on the channel. Could be news, could be just fun topics that I want to cover. Always here on the channel. Please subscribe. We're on the road to 15K, and join DeHave Nation as a community member. We would love to have you folks. I'm trying to do something special in this community. Also subscribe to my other channels. Links are down in the description. On one channel I do 2K content, so maybe I'll play with some guys on their new teams. Could be a video with Fox and the Spurs. I don't know. Kings with Zach Lavine could be in the works. Please subscribe. More videos over there, and subscribe to my third channel. Links down in the description. We'll be uploading a new series on the third channel that I'm super excited about. I already have 2 of them recorded, and so definitely check that out. And follow my Twitter. Links down in the description. All the stuff is in the description, and I will catch you guys in the next one. This has been Blockbuster Trade number 2. Hopefully we can get a part 3 to this series, right? And hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. This is your boy DeHave, and as always, peace.